Hello Team FD and welcome back to Transfer Review. Yes, this is normally on Euro Football Daily, but we've stuck it on here in the absence of Winners and Losers, which returns very, very soon on a brand spanking new set. Talking of brand spanking new, the 12th man launched last week, our Sky Fantasy Football League. Pin on screen now. If you haven't already joined, go ahead and do that and show us your team after on Twitter. But alas, to transfers, Joseph, because that's what we're here for, baby. Aaron Ramsey to Chelsea, kicking proceedings off for a meagre £30 million.
Yes, that would be cheap as chips, wouldn't it? Although he has only got 1 year left on his deal. Apparently, Chelsea are considering a bid for Arsenal's midfielder. Contract talks have stalled, haven't they? They've stagnated for a little while now, and Arsenal clearly want to avoid another Ozil or Alexis Sanchez situation. The rumours are effectively that Ozil's £350,000 a week contract has kind of made Ramsey want a little bit more. He's apparently demanding more money from the team. He's also a big goal threat from the midfield, isn't he? He's Arsenal's probably biggest deep-lying goal threat. I think he was averaging 0.7 goals and assists per 90 last season. His expected goals and expected assists both at 0.3 as well. So you can expect good stuff from him going forward if he does play in a blue shirt next season. The thing I will say is a bit dodgy is the £30 million fee. That seems incredibly low given that Arsenal sold Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who I would actually say is a poor man's Aaron Ramsey, for €40 million, £40 million with just 1 year left on his contract. So if Arsenal do sell, I'm expecting this to be upwards of £50 million. Also, there's massive turnover this summer, isn't there, under Unai Emery. Does Unai Emery really want to lose a player of the calibre of Aaron Ramsey to a direct rival as well? I'm not so sure. I think this one is a no-goer at £30 million, Hannah.
Yeah, especially as Emery has been quoted as to saying he wants to build his team around the Welshman, so I'd be extremely surprised, like you said. However, he would be a great fit for Sarri's midfield three. Jorginho in his normal role, Kante is that Allen-type player, and Ramsey is the goal threat which Hamsik carried for the Little Donkeys last season. Doesn't average as many passes as Hamsik due to the different nature of systems, I suppose, they both played in, but they do both average higher than 80% in terms of pass accuracy, the Welshman and the Slovakian. So there's no reason why he shouldn't be adept at stitching together the sort of midfield and attack. And Ramsey's 2.5 tackles and interceptions per 90 trump Hamsik's defensive output too. So Aaron Ramsey, maybe sometimes to his own sort of deficit, does put in a defensive shift, doesn't he? Chelsea are missing that goal threat from midfield too, and that's where those stats would really fit in nicely. Ramsey got the same amount of league goals in 1,800 minutes than the entire Blues midfield got all season on 7.
That's ridiculous. That's such a bad, damning stat for Chelsea.
There's no way Chelsea compete for Champions League football if that midfield is only scoring in the range of 7 goals, especially in the absence of a 20-goal striker. Can Morata be that man? We don't know yet. Can he stay fit? Question marks still remain. And question marks remain over Ramsey's fitness, actually, which is why this sort of figure's been lowballed, I guess. In the last 2 seasons, he's missed 33 games due to muscular injuries. But Oxlade-Chamberlain was a bit inconsistent in that regard before, and like you said, they got 40 for him. So I could see him departing Arsenal, but for no less than 50, which I believe was quoted a couple of months back. I think Van Straten's a big advocate for this move. Despite being an Arsenal fan, he thinks he'd fit in really well at Chelsea. George, behind the scenes, an Arsenal fan, doesn't want to see Aaron Ramsey go. So kind of split hairs with the Arsenal fans. But what do you guys think? Gooners, let us know in the comments below. Would you bite Chelsea's hand off for 50? Or would you be annoyed at 30? Our next section is a little bit looser. It is Manchester United's centre-back situation and their 9-man shortlist that has surfaced in multiple media outlets. I don't know much about this, but you've done a bit of reading, so why don't you lay down what has happened thus far?
Yeah, yesterday I was extremely hungover in a pub and the Sunday Times was there. I was reading it through and it had some great articles by Paul Hurst in it, who has some brilliant insight into the Manchester United dressing room and transfers behind the scenes. And like you said, United have apparently drawn up a list of 9 central defensive options for Jose Mourinho. They've spent 18 months conducting a European-wide search that has been the primary focus for the club, and the 9 names they've drawn up with, none of them Jose Mourinho is particularly happy with. People have been saying about Toby Alderweireld. Let me just say, according to the article, Toby Alderweireld is dead bottom of the list on 9th.
So let me take you through the other 8.
Go on.
And then you give me a yes or no. And we'll sort of profile them a little bit as well. So, in no particular order, Jerome Boateng, who Bayern Munich have said publicly is allowed to leave for the right price, which I'm not surprised about given the fact he's barely played 20 games in a season for the last 4 years. Would you take him at the club?
No, I wouldn't take Jerome Boateng at Manchester United. I think that PSG have just balked at his £48 million price tag, so that one's not going to be happening in my opinion. He also wants like 250k a week. No chance.
Class player, but would be more of a stopgap than anything, wouldn't he? Rafa Varane, maybe we can skirt over that pretty quickly.
No chance.
Might have been available 2 or 3 years ago, but definitely not now. Harry Maguire. Apparently Leicester have been quoted as to saying now they want 80, not 65.
That's way too much money for Harry Maguire. 65, I think you can just about sell in. You can just about get away with it. But 80 is a real stretch. And part of that article as well was written by Duncan Castles, who is effectively Jose Mourinho and George Mendes' mouthpiece to the British media. And he basically says that Jose privately with his staff has said he doesn't want Harry Maguire at the club, and that the club are basically pushing him to sign him because he's English and had a good World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, you'll start to see more and more of this with players from mid-table clubs. They're now owned by the super rich, like the King Power owners. And Leicester are always in a strong bargaining position as a result. And they did it with Mahrez, didn't they?
And all I will say is if United were really that keen, would they not have bid for him pre-World Cup when... Let's face it, we probably could have got him for a lot cheaper than 80.
Yeah, 6 games shouldn't be making that much of a difference financially, should it? Moving on to Kalidou Koulibaly, who I probably rate the highest on this list. Now, De Laurentiis, who is effectively, the chairman of Napoli, recently claimed they rejected an offer of over €100 million for the Senegalese superstar. Now, we know all about this guy. Brilliant at bringing the ball from out of the back, adept at passing with both feet, has a very high pass accuracy, which is the sort of profile that Manchester United are looking for to play next to Bailly, right? Bailly is that guy who steps out, is kind of the Otamendi, the one who flies in occasionally, not occasionally, you're hoping more than occasionally, makes the tackles, puts in the big numbers, while Koulibaly's the calming presence beside him. But it would appear, for the first time in a long time, Manchester United have been priced out of multiple targets.
Yeah, I just think that the €100 million price tag is going to be too much for Manchester United to kind of look at and think that's acceptable. I don't know whether you caught any of the Man United AC Milan game, Hamster.
No.
But Jose spent most of it absolutely berating Bailly for flying out the line. So I can see that changing a little bit, that dynamic, hopefully him pulling back a little bit.
Yeah, well, if he's having to play next to Smalling or Phil Jones, then I'd imagine so. Romagnoli, who has recently been made captain of AC Milan, I believe.
Or he's going to be made captain of AC Milan.
What do you think?
Him as a candidate? I think he's potentially one of the better candidates on the list, but I just don't see AC Milan wanting to sell him. And also, it doesn't strike me as a Jose Mourinho type signing, really.
No, apparently he's been a bit underwhelmed with Romagnoli as a target, as in Jose Mourinho. Yeah. Although AC Milan fans were pretty happy with him last season, and he was their defensive stalwart, surprisingly, over Bonucci.
Yeah.
And he's not particularly old, is he? He's physical, he's got height, he's a powerful player. So I could see him adjusting well to the Premier League, but probably not as well as the next target, Skriniar from Inter Milan. Now, I've heard that Jose doesn't rate him either.
I think probably the best name at the best value on the list at just 23 years old. But yeah, apparently Man United scouts presented Skriniar as one of the top candidates, and Jose Mourinho kind of scoffed it and didn't think he was of the calibre Manchester United are looking at. So another name you can chalk off a list alongside. I think the final two were Jimenez and Soyuncu from Freiburg, and Jimenez obviously signed a new contract just, a month ago, 2 months ago, so pretty much every name on this list has been written off by Jose.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to get anyone out of Inter Milan as well this season. I think it's a pretty close camp now under Spalletti. He did sort of solved a lot of issues behind the scenes, didn't he, last season, and securing Champions League football means that Inter Milan are sort of a much tastier prospect. And I suppose the guys want to stick around for that. But before we move on to the continent, a few words about Jose Mourinho's very choice words about the current squad that he's got pre-season, because he wasn't happy, was he, following that 4-1 defeat to Liverpool, saying that they've struggled to beat us before this. Now they're going to take sort of a renewed positivity going into the new season off the back of thumping you, Shaqiri scoring that overhead kick to kind of rub salt into the proverbial wound. What a goal that was as well. Shout out to you, the chode. But pretty damning on the youngsters. Can't be a massively positive camp at the moment following those very kind of bitter words.
Yeah, that's an understatement, isn't it? This has got to be the most negative pre-season tour I can ever remember. Jose Mourinho has gone from charismatic manager to miserable old git in the space of about 6 months. I don't know what the hell has happened to him behind the scenes, but the way he was talking about our youth team on the weekend is nothing short of a disgrace, quite frankly. Some of the comments made around Martial and Alexis Sanchez, saying that Martial should be back with the squad. I know he's had a baby, but he should be here. I don't know where he is. And then I think he was saying about Alexis Sanchez, forgive him, the poor man's trying his best. Look at the players he's got around him. Like, how disrespectful can you be to the young players that you've taken and chosen to take on that tour to America? I'll tell you something, Jose, that our youth academy will still be there when you f***ed off, and it was there for a long time before you got there. So show a bit of respect towards it, quite frankly.
Especially given the stark contrast to Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola's kind of very positive, buoyant words about the young squads they've got out there in the absence of their World Cup stars. It doesn't, again, generate that feel-good feeling. And are we not past the point now where Jose Mourinho is being kind of spike? He's being a little bit controversial. He's
100%.
sticking the boot up certain players to get a reaction out of them. Surely, if he's looking to build on last season, now is the time to be a bit more diplomatic, a bit more. But this is his style, isn't it? But he is getting more abrasive.
He's in 100% Jose Mourinho conservation mode. He is already getting the excuses in early for when this season inevitably goes tits up. Jose can go, well, they didn't get the targets I wanted. Well, we didn't have a good pre-season tour. Well, all the players didn't come back from World Cup when I asked them to. So for me, Jose Mourinho's getting his excuses in early. To be honest with you, he's me off over the weekend. He's actually annoyed me.
But who does he want? He was underwhelmed with most of the options on that list. He's clearly annoyed at the Manchester United board for not facilitating getting those 5 players that he highlighted a couple of months ago, he says in the actual interview. So
his head's gone. Matic is out for the start of the season now. He's done his abdominals. He's got to have surgery. He's not got any of the World Cup players back. He's got more injuries at centre half. Diego Dalot, who he's brought in, has done his knee, so he's out. He's having an absolute nightmare.
All right. Well, guys, what do you think about the current situation at Manchester United? Let us know in the comments below. I think it's best we move on before Joe's vein pops.
Moving on now to Germany, where Christian Pulisic made headlines, Hamster.
Yeah, Bild have reported that Christian Pulisic has ended new contract negotiations with Borussia Dortmund. Cue the storm. Now, the American's current deal runs out in 2020, and with fears of him running into his final year, BVB are apparently willing to deal at 65 million euros, which is far less than was being quoted at the start of last summer. Now, his father has added further fuel to the fire, claiming that Christian has 1 goal, and that's to play in the Premier League.
Ooh,
very
spicy.
Choice words. And since then, 3 clubs have emerged as frontrunners, according to the English and German press. Now, those 3 clubs are Liverpool, Chelsea, and Manchester United. Now, Jurgen Klopp is apparently still in the market for attacking talent, given that failed move for Nabil Fekir. Chelsea, Maurizio Sarri is looking for a Willian replacement should Manchester United or Real Madrid now apparently get their man. Everyone wants the Brazilian this summer, it would seem. Not to mention that Pulisic is going to be a bona fide star in the States. That is no doubt getting Ed Woodward's wood hard. Anyway, moving on. But how would he fit into each team, Joe, given their current personnel?
Well, let's start with Liverpool because, like you said, clearly Jurgen Klopp is trying to add one more potential attacking, maybe even midfield talent, somebody that can link the two together at least to his side after that failed move for Fekir. And let's not forget, Pulisic is 6 years younger than his French counterpart. Look, Fekir is slightly more creative, bringing in 2.2 chances per 90 comparatively to Pulisic's 1.2 chances. But the American, way better defensively, puts in an impressive 1.9 tackles and interceptions per 90 90 compared to Fekir, who's just over 1 himself. So you can see why Jurgen Klopp wants to potentially bring him in. As for Chelsea and United, well, United, Willian remains very high on the agenda under Jose Mourinho, doesn't he? But it's an odd one for me, because he doesn't really offer that much going forward. His best ever Premier League tally is 8 goals. And some kind of claim that he's a defensive powerhouse, does a lot of dirty work. Well, does he? Because last season he produced 1.1 tackles and interceptions per 90. That's the same as Juan Mata. And we don't think of Juan Mata as kind of being this defensively minded wide man who comes back, do we, at all? Surely, for me, Pulisic would be a better option for both clubs. You mentioned then that Real Madrid are interested in Willian to the tune of 100 million euros in a joint deal with Thibaut Courtois, I believe. So if they can get rid of him and bring in Pulisic, I think it would be a superb move by Maurizio Sarri. Let's not forget he's 11 years younger than Willian right now, Pulisic. And I just think that either team, as Liverpool as well, in fact all 3 teams would be improved by Christian Pulisic. Clearly United need a wide man on the right-hand side because Jose doesn't want to play Sanchez there. God knows why. Liverpool, he could come in and provide some depth to that attacking trio. And Chelsea, if they ship Willian out, are going to be missing a wide forward. So if he does move, he's going to be in high demand. But 65 million seems cheap to me, especially in this current market. And a 19-year-old superstar like Pulisic, probably America's greatest ever player already.
Hey, put a bit of respect on Landon Donovan's name.
Yeah, maybe.
Or even, who's that guy who played for Fulham? Dempsey.
Clint Dempsey.
The Clint dog.
But yeah, don't really know how to wrap that section up, so.
Which club should he join? Where would you go? Yeah, vote in the poll just above.
Nailed it.
Time for the transfer shocker, and this week it's a triple threat. Please explain every single one of those components in said triple R.
Well, the first 2 components depend on each other. Higuain to AC Milan. Juventus want Bonucci in return and some cash. They're apparently ready to deal at 30 million euros plus Bonucci for Gonzalo Higuain. But what I will say is that the wages are a big problem. Bonucci's earning 10 million euros a year and Higuain's earning 7.5 million. Neither club wants to continue paying those massive fees. So, if the players accept lower wages, this move could get done. That's according to lots of different media outlets in Italy. The third component comes in the form of Caldara, who's of course been on loan at Atalanta from Juventus for 18 months, and he's been doing bits there as well. AC Milan very keen on making a move happen, but so are Chelsea. That's to the tune of about 45 million euros. Let's not forget that Juventus bought him in for 15 million euros plus 10 million euros in add-ons just 18 months ago, and he hasn't played a single minute for the old lady. So those are the 3 components. Higuain to AC, Bonucci back to Juventus, and then Caldara as a third player going to AC. Now, it's an exciting time in Italy, but do we see any of these moves happening? Because I'm a bit nervous about Higuain going to AC, I have to say.
And it feels like neither set of fans win in this equation. Higuain, Juventus fans want him to stay despite his shot numbers dropping off. He's in obvious decline. I think he was averaging 2.9 shots per 90 last season, which is way down from his numbers when he went kind of supernova at Napoli, but still chipped in with 16 league goals, was still very useful in their Champions League campaign. And I know they have an issue now with Ronaldo coming in that they have essentially 2 guys who can only play one position as number 9, and I doubt Allegri is going to change his kind of 4-2-3-1 system to facilitate that. But having Higuain on the bench for a season might be the difference between winning the Champions League and just winning the league. This is a guy who, if you can convince him to stay despite limited game time, could be unbelievable depth from the bench. However, they've paid 105 million euros for Ronaldo, and last year, I think 2017 was the first year that Juventus posted profit under Agnelli. So financial fair play does come into this to an extent. They are going to have to sell assets, and I think they'd rather part ways with someone like Higuain than Pjanic, because why bring in Ronaldo if you're going to take out sort of the orchestrator in that midfield? And that's kind of why they've rebuked several bids for him from Barcelona, haven't they? So selling Higuain makes sense in that regard. However, I don't think Juventus fans want to see him go. I don't know how keen AC Milan fans are to have him. I know that AC Milan fans are keen to get rid of Bonucci.
Yes, very keen to get rid of Bonucci, and Juve fans don't want him.
Bonucci's now 31. Do we value him at 30? Because that's the sort of price they're asking for Higuain from Chelsea. I'm not so sure. Higuain to Chelsea would have been a much cleaner break, wouldn't
Yeah.
it, for 50 million euros? And I think that would have ticked a lot more boxes and it would have been more satisfactory to him as a player. But apparently, Maurizio Sarri doesn't want him now. That ship has sailed. So his only sort of option is AC or back up to Ronaldo. But is he going to want to forego Champions League football for maybe one last season? Oh, I don't know if he commits to AC Milan. He's obviously playing Europa League football. There's no guarantee they're going to break into the top four. The Serie A is looking very strong this season. Are AC any better equipped than Lazio to challenge for Champions League football or Roma? No. So I'd like to see him stay or get a move to a Premier League club.
Yeah, I think it's an odd one from Juventus' perspective. If these transfers mean that you have to sell Caldara to AC Milan, I think it's a negative. I think that he's definitely one of Europe's more promising players. Yes, he might be 24, 25 now, but when they originally signed him 18 months ago from Atalanta for like 15, 25 million, he was up there stats-wise in the Europe's top 5 central defenders. So if you can get him in and keep him at Juventus, at least breed him to be potential successor to Chiellini or at least alongside Rugani and Benatia, I think it's a much better option than re-signing a 31-year-old Bonucci.
There's also that, right? Barzagli's 37. I think, Chiellini,
Exactly.
Chiellini is 30.
So why are you bringing Bonucci back?
So yeah, let's end on that bombshell. Age.
Short term.
Father time gets us all. So that was the transfer review for this week, guys. Did we miss any big movers and shakers? Let us know in the comments below and we'll cover them on other shows. Joe, what else is going on in Football Daily? You're a Football Daily?
Yeah, if you haven't already, make sure you join our 12-man fantasy football league. Hamster mentioned it at the start. The pin will be on screen now. It's also in the description below. We're trying to get like 3,000 sign-ups, should we say? How many have we got so far?
More, we had
800,
5,000 last year.
850 in the league, so hurry up and join, for God's sake.
Numbers.